Thank you, guys. I think this works. Here we go. Appreciate it coming on an early Monday morning to be with us. The topic today is elevating the checkout experience for next-gen shoppers. A lot of talk about commerce, e-commerce, commerce media, etc. I am thankful to be joined today by two lovely friends of mine, Marnie Shapiro, who is the global head of advertising for Cash App and Afterpay. And then Elizabeth Buchanan, who is the Chief Commercial Officer of Rokt. And if you haven't heard of Rokt, they power a lot of the e-commerce players and retailers that you shop with and work with today. So give it up for my colleagues. Perfect. So we all know e-commerce is a thing, go figure. We spend a lot on it. We spend a lot of our time on it in terms of thinking about ways to advertise, to spend money, to help our clients spend money. Today we're going to talk about the the checkout experience specifically. So let's start with Marnie real quick on a question that's probably a pretty obvious one, which is why somebody like you guys, Afterpay, Cash App, in the commerce media space to start?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thanks everybody for having us in this lovely basement. We've been discussing whether or not it was a dressing room or we were shopping here at some point many years ago. So here we are talking about checkout, which is so fitting. At Cash App and Afterpay, we're part of the Block family along with Square, and our whole mission is economic empowerment. And so we create products and services that help consumers access money, spend their money wisely and smartly, and we use these products to advance consumers' access in ways that they're likely not getting from traditional financial institutions. And that's a lot of what new fintech is doing, right? We're allowing access. That brings us to incredible opportunities for checkout, for payment, for managing money. And what we have seen is a real natural intersection between those tools, those payment tools, and shopping, right? So that's where we end up talking about commerce media as a real evolution of retail media, which is really grounded in a specific retailer. What you've got on our side is a massive amount of merchants, right? A merchant of merchants, so to speak, at Afterpay. And when you think about the breadth and the scale of people that we touch and that a lot of fintech services touch, and then the amount of consumer insights that come along with all of those people, it leads itself really well into this intersection of payment and commerce. And then I always think, like, my whole history in advertising was like, how do we in digital advertising find the right ad at the right time in the right place for the right person? And then when you think about the checkout experience, there is no better intersection than that. So that's where I really think that we can bring it together in a way that works perfectly for a consumer, fits natively in the process, and is performative for the merchant as well.
That's awesome. Elizabeth, one of the things that obviously e-commerce and digital more broadly has made the promise to us as consumers is personalization and relevance. So can you talk a little bit about, like as I mentioned before, you guys are actually powering a lot of these massive e-commerce solutions today. How does relevance and personalization change the game for that checkout experience?
Thank you, yes, and thank you all for joining us here this morning, as Marnie said. So I think it's pretty similar, just extending on what Marnie was describing, that in the shopping moment, in that checkout journey, the combination of how much brands understand about that customer and whether they've seen them or not, everything they've learned in that particular shopping moment is incredibly powerful. And I think in general, the industry hasn't unlocked that nearly as much as we can. And it's a huge opportunity for getting something relevant to that customer that's actually going to delight them. We talk about checkouts that are worth checking out. And instead of that overwhelming digital, kind of world where we all as consumers kind of find ourselves feeling a bit like this, trying to shut things down and get them out of our way, when we're shopping, I think you really want the e-commerce business to know you and understand you in a way that then can unlock exactly the most relevant messages and offers and product additions that really suit you in that moment. Sorry, I think we're having microphone issues for me. Hopefully it'll be all right. So for us, we talk about it being relevance and not personalization, because personalization is that really simple stuff we all started doing in places like email, where we would know the person's first name. So we would say, hey, Elizabeth, hey, Mark, hey, Marnie. But relevance is knowing what you might actually be interested in next, and really learning from all of that big data that we were all talking about over the last 10 years. And instead of just collecting it somewhere in a lake or a CDP, turning it into insights that actually create some kind of delight or added value that's really relevant to me in that shopping moment. And how you present it. So it's not just what you show, but instead of it being stagnant and the same for every single person who comes through the checkout, make sure it's something I'm going to be interested in, and then present it in a way. So it might be through Ticketmaster that we show me valet parking, because yes, I'll be a sucker for that, where someone else might want a lawn chair, or actually a really good deal on a general admission standing position. So, instead of showing all of those options, which ones should you show and which ones should you highlight, and maybe even which ones should you put a promotion on? For example, a retailer who knows this shopper would be a very high value credit card customer, because that creates additional loyalty with that customer. Is it worth actually offering half that basket for free today, rather than a generic offer for signing up for the card, and make it much more meaningful, because the lifetime value will be well worth that investment. And that relevant moment becomes that connection between the e-commerce brand and that customer. So I think we've got a really wonderful future ahead as e-commerce shoppers that I'm excited about, because we are starting to see businesses really understand that moment can be very magic for the shopper, but also the e-commerce partner or business, in how they can unlock more revenue through that delightful checkout worth checking out.
I like that. Checkout worth checking out.
I
I also like the nuances between personalization and relevance, because I do think those two words are used interchangeably and are simply not the same here. But that leads to us as consumers and kind of how our expectations have changed, right? There are some who expect a coupon or expect a thing, and there are others who expect a seamless, right, one-click output. Marnie, maybe talk a little bit about like how the consumer experience expectations have changed around shopping online, and specifically the checkout experience.
Sure, yeah. I would love everyone just to think about their own experience when they check out online, when we talk about what we see as trends and expectations, because I'm going to assume all of us have these expectations at this point. But a handful of those would be convenience and speed, right? So users want one-click checkout. They are so used to that now. I remember the very first time I used Amazon one-click, like I was like, I'm in the space and I can't believe this is happening. And now I pray that my kids don't see that so easily and don't use it as easily. So speed and convenience, how do I get what I want, see exactly how I want to pay for it, and check out as quickly as possible? That's number one. Number two, we're still on this. We're not there yet, but omni-channel excellence. Mm-hmm. I want to be able, and I'm speaking on behalf of the consumers we know about, and myself, I want consistency in my checkout experience. If I'm checking out at a merchant site, if I'm checking out within a social feed, if I'm checking out through Afterpay app, if I'm checking out anywhere, it should feel and look the same. Why does it not? Why do I have to put in different fields in one place, not in another? What's happening? So I want consistency. I want all the benefits of omnichannel. I want to buy online, pick up in store. I want bundled payment options with my payment providers. I want to be able to return anywhere that I want and anyhow I want. And if that isn't happening, if you are a merchant, please let that happen. So omnichannel, it is beneficial for everyone, but the user, the consumer, will keep coming back for more if you make it really easy. I would say the third one is not personalization, but relevancy and transparency. So Elizabeth just said this, and I can't say it enough. When a user is getting to checkout, they want it to be relevant to them. Can we offer up the right payment options for them in the time of checkout? Can we show them the choice that makes sense for them versus the only choice that the retailer wants them to see? can we be as transparent as possible about what costs are included? What's the shipping? What's the tax? Are there fees? And then what, from a relevancy perspective, what is? You nailed it. It is so important. Is there an offer that matters to me? Is there an additional item that matters to me? Is there a benefit? I think we just got a stat, not surprising, but nearly half of shoppers will look for a different checkout experience to get free shipping. And when you get to checkout and you're at that final place, and then I see $20 for shipping, I might abandon my cart and move on. And so those are things about relevancy and transparency. Just be really clear, make it really relevant to them, and let them move on. And then I would say the last one, shameless plug, but we started as a trend, but is now quite a long-lasting feature here to stay, which is buy now, pay later. And why that's important, it opened up an entire world for people to shop in a way that makes sense for them and their budgets and their wallets. It gives them more options. It doesn't put them into revolving debt hell like I was in, being a parent of a young millennial or old old Gen Z. And I would say that having those options at checkout, whether it is pay now, whether it's pay in 4, whether it's pay monthly, whatever those options are, give them to your consumer. You will then be able to make them happy because they have choice, they can go quickly, and they can move through the process pretty well.
Yeah.
I was going to add on to that, the power of what we've taught consumers, right, around the value exchange of what they should expect. Marnie was saying we probably already in this room are expecting it. We're in the space, you're in a room about commerce media, that's absolutely probably true. But it's actually now very mainstream. We've taught consumers that if they go to a retailer or any kind of e-commerce site, if you put in your email, you will get 10% off or whatever we've trained them. And we've literally taught them my email is worth X. Now we're telling them they also have to give their mobile as well to get the 10. Isn't that the... Yeah.
I hate that.
But whatever it is, we have taught them that this actually has value. And so what we haven't delivered enough, and we're really trying to help our clients deliver on this promise to customers, is what are you going to do with that? What are you actually going to make relevant to me when I come back? And so don't show me things that I've clearly said I don't want. Or don't show me things like the retailer credit card I was talking about earlier, if you know I'll actually be declined. Or don't tell me to download the app if I'm actually on the app using it right now, or downloaded it last week, right? So these are things that actually, we laugh because we all know and experience how silly it is. But not only is that silly and causing increasing kind of, oh God, you're annoying. How do you not know me yet? I come back here all the time. But what it's also not doing is unlocking the potential of what could have been in that message placement instead, which could have been a surprise and delight, that could have been additional revenue. And so I think that value exchange is not just us anymore. It's actually everyday consumers who are saying, well, what are you doing with my data to make it more valuable or more enjoyable for me to shop with you? So I think it's a hygiene factor more and more, and using technology to enable that is very powerful.
Yeah. My family learned the pitfalls of the one-click ordering when my 3-year-old bought a $2,500 trumpet. That was at work. Yeah, that was cool.
A trumpet!
Super into music and was flipping through his iPad and saw it and literally saw the one. It clearly didn't. I don't think a 3-year-old had any idea what he was doing, but yeah.
When did you find out? When it arrived?
When I got the thank you email.
When you got the thank you email.
A trumpet.
It was beautiful.
That's fantastic.
That is amazing.
One of the things that's come up now 10 times, right, is this mix and this strangle between privacy and relevancy. And as a consumer, to your point, I've trained myself to say, hey, my email at gmail.com is worth 10% off to insert retailer here. At the same time, there are massive expectations on the other side, right? I want to be remembered. Hey, I bought that last week. I bought that in the retail brick and mortar store. Don't show it to me here. How do you think we collectively solve that problem?
Technology.
Yeah.
I mean, and actually leaning into best in market. So I think what we've seen at Rokt is that a lot of organizations felt they had to build this technology themselves, and it's really, really hard to continue to innovate at the speed of the likes of an Amazon around data and relevancy and next best action. And so that's what we're really proud to help clients unlock is, we'll sit across 6 billion transactions this year. We reach 105 million monthly actives every month, and that's growing every month. And so what that means, we've learned about shoppers, whether they're on a retailer, whether they're in an Uber, whatever it is that they're doing, we are learning about how they think as an individual, not as a shopper of X website and only that website. And so that can unlock a really great insight of relevance rather than just that personalization for any client that uses Rokt's technology through their checkout. And so that however they use the technology really depends on their objectives for their customers. So it gets used in lots of different ways. It can be advertising, it can be upsells, it can be how do you show the right payment provider in payments that makes sense and that will surprise and delight potentially even with an offer. But however they deploy, fast tracking that next best action with best in market technology is definitely something that we're seeing success. And I should note that great technology comes from Australia, which is the accent, because Afterpay is also an Australian-founded company. So some great Australian tech out there.
I like the plug.
I love that plug.
I like it. Marnie, you touched on it, and Elizabeth just touched on it too, in this idea of choice, right? And especially at the checkout when you've talked about choice of payment options here, and you guys play across all sorts of different environments from mobile to traditional desktop to brick and mortar, the whole nine. How important have you guys seen that the optionality be as part of that experience? Like, is that something that retailers are leaning into
Yeah, for sure. Optionality is critical. I think when Buy Now, Pay Later, at least, came onto the scene with Afterpay, it very much was you went onto a merchant site, you could pay with your credit card or you could pay with Afterpay, right? There was only one. And then Klarna came in, and it was this, if you are a retailer in here and had both of us pitching to you, you probably know that. It was one or the other. It's exclusive XYZ. Yeah. No one needs an exclusive choice. We need the choice that makes sense for us in the moment that we are making that purchase. And so having options at checkout is critical. And the benefits are both for the merchant and for the consumer, and I'll get to the advertiser as well. So for the merchant, when you have options at checkout, you are increasing conversion. More people are going to be able to shop in a different way, whatever way they want, and therefore they're likely to convert. They might be spending a little bit more money, right? Their AOV might be slightly higher because they have options for purchasing an item or a basket without having to put themselves into debt necessarily, right? If they can budget it and they can do it the way that works for them. You are also, as a merchant or as a retailer, you are expanding your scope. You're actually being more inclusive because you're offering way more options for a consumer. Not everyone can come on and say, yeah, I'm going to buy this $200 thing right now and I have to worry about a 20% APR. I'm just going to buy it. That isn't realistic. And not to mention the fact that a lot of young people don't trust credit cards. They don't want credit cards. And so you have to be able to offer them a payment option that they want to take advantage of. So you get all of these benefits from a merchant perspective, right? I'll just say again, conversion, AOV, frequency, and loyalty. From a user perspective, all the things we already talked about. You have choice, you have efficiency, you have relevancy, you have all the things that you need and want, I hope, in one day utopian world. It's all perfect and it's right there. And then we're back to the first point of like where commerce media, what is it? Why is a payment company, a fintech company in this conversation? Because in that moment, when someone is going through the checkout process, that is another moment for any brand to bring something valuable to a consumer. And I love what Elizabeth said, and I cannot agree enough. There is a value exchange that a consumer understands. They get the fact that you are giving me an opportunity for something that's really good for you. It better be good for me too. And that's why you're showing up in my face right now. Now, we're also talking about checkout. So we're not talking about big, splashy, figure it out social media ad units. Like, it's a really efficient, effective message type that shows up in the right place at the right time. And so that's where I really think the benefits come. And again, just to bring it back, like for a merchant, tons of benefits from having multiple options when your consumer checks out. For a consumer, tons of benefits from having multiple options. And from a brand perspective, you can get yourself in there in a respectful and value exchange way.
Yeah.
Perfectly said.
I hope.
So we've been talking a lot about kind of, the optionalities today with respect to optionality in payment terms, buy now, pay later, et cetera. How do we avoid making that checkout page look like, dare I say, the homepage of like TMZ? And I love you guys if you're out there, but like, right? How do we avoid making it the classified ad section?
That's the whole point, right? It's how do we clear the noise?
Yeah.
And I think in the checkout, it's the most important place to get that right. Because to Mani's point, like, you're already a bit, and please help us with more simplified fields and more consistency there, et cetera, like Mani talked about earlier, but also around it, please make it streamlined, please make it fast, please make it light, please make it something that when I finish, I don't feel like I've just been, filling in my tax form, so how do we do that? It's by using technology to make choices that are about that end customer. So if you have 1 or 2 precious slots where you might promote something other than the core mechanics of getting that, basket to your door, make them really about me. Unlock them so they're not stagnant. And that's exactly what our technology was built to do with that very sole purpose. Originally, it was for the idea came from a low-cost airline whose tickets are not profitable usually. And so getting that one little upsell slot right and not making it generic and not showing everyone everything, because that creates the paradox of choice, which is, oh God, it's too hard. I don't know what to choose. I'll just do it when I get to the flight. That's a missed opportunity. And so actually using everything you know about that customer, whether you've seen them or not before, or customers who look like them, and then delivering them in that very precious slot, something that's relevant. So choosing between which product and service, but like I also talked about earlier, not just which product and service, but how you show it, and what kind of promotion, and what kind of value, and is it graphic, is it rational, like what is this individual actually going to respond to that makes it feel like it was a really useful slot that you just unlocked and provided them with something relevant for them. In which case, guess what? They add it to the cart, they're delighted, and you've increased the value of that transaction. And similarly, if you do choose to show advertising, places that they usually will show up is that confirmation page, where Rokt has kind of become the ubiquitous partner there on that confirmation page. It's the same technology. Don't show that customer something that's irrelevant, especially if you're going to be showing things that are maybe non-endemic. Make it a delight. Make it something that customer says, wow, I haven't seen that offer anywhere else in market, and it's really, really of interest to me. And that's why we get such high engagement rates on that page, because we spend so much time and money on that next best action, machine learning, AI. And so I think hopefully, the more that we're able to help our clients really focus in on the fewer but the better and the more relevant, all of us will enjoy those experiences more.
Yeah, I just want to say that we're a partner of Rokt, and that post-checkout experience blows my mind every time I see readouts. Like it is incredible. And then my friends and family who have nothing to do with, still don't understand what I do for a living, I see them check out and I see them engage, and I'm like, wow, and I've heard my sister, who's a school teacher, be like, oh my God, I was just looking at that. And I know it's technology, and sometimes I'm like, oh my God, that was Elizabeth.
I'm handpicking them.
Yeah, just for my sister.
That's what we honestly, actually, I'm so glad you said that, Mani, because it really is such a compliment, and so thank you, because that is exactly the essence of what we work so hard to try and make the shopper feel is, wow, cool, thank you. Someone hand-picked that for me. And so whether that's on the cart page and it's about the upsells or the credit card or the popcorn or, Pepsi for your movie ticket, whatever it is, we want to make sure that it feels like it was a delightful checkout experience.
Yeah.
We've got one question that we didn't prep, so I'm going to throw it out there to the two of you.
Great.
Hopefully it'll be great. I think you've dropped a ton of knowledge here in 25 minutes. If I'm a retailer sitting in the crowd right now who's doing none of this, who has like tax form style thing, I'm peeing my pants right now because you guys have just laid out a lot of things I have to go do. Where do you start? Is this a go talk to 100 customers and get like real, do it yourself and realize where would you suggest a retailer start in making this relevant?
Honestly, very happy for them to start by LinkedIn messaging me and I can help. But because we sit across, 6 billion transactions this year globally, like whether it's ASOS or Uber or Lyft or JCPenney or, Kohl's, Macy's. So what we're able to help fast track is that best in breed, because our technology is sitting across all of those different environments, and all of them are always on a journey of continuous improvement, right? So as you all probably are too in your businesses, and they're all learning and they're iterating and they're using our technology and challenging us on, can you also help me with this, and what if we did that in the My Account page, and what if we did this over here? And how do we also make sure that they're all stitched together? So whatever we showed them here is also talking to and related to and either highlighting or completely different to the first thing that they saw today or last week. So we're happy to help fast track anyone through that journey. But I also think as consumers, and particularly knowledgeable consumers, so if you work in this industry, like Marnie was saying, she's representing all of Afterpay's customers, but also herself, because we are also really good at understanding when we're delighted. And so I think it's always also coming back to what is your North Star of your most delightful digital experience in the last week, where you actually either finished it and completely forgot it because it was so simple, it was so easy, it was that delightful, or you went through that experience, and it doesn't have to be a checkout, it could be any kind of UI UX user experience, and then tap into what was about that you want to try and bring to life in your own experience. Because I think you'll tend to find it's what Marnie was talking about, it's that simplicity, it's the delight, it's the transparency, and it's also efficiency. So how do you do things that make it really, really efficient? That generally does equal delight for an online shopper.
Yeah. I love all of that. I am taking my own notes there. I would also say that we all know our customer, right? Everyone takes pride in knowing your customer. Your customer wants and needs different payment choices, period. And I think that is a big part of this kind of learning journey also. Understand the financial implications of your customer. So again, when we think about the younger millennials, older Gen Z, they don't like credit cards. So if on your site you're only accepting credit cards, that's a problem. There are a lot of people in this country that can't even get access to credit cards. So
it's like Nokia.
Yeah.
It's the old phone.
It's
is like what your parents use for payment. It's hysterical.
How many people have like checked out recently at maybe like a fundraiser or somewhere where you can't? This is not even having another form of payment, but can't even use an Amex. Like you can only, and then you're like, oh shit, excuse my language. Like that's the only number I know, or you can only use that. And then you're like, oh, I don't even know. So I would just say to learn the real financial needs of your customer.
Profile, yeah.
There are, definitely go pick up the phone and go to Rokt and figure out how to get your checkout process as cleaned up and valuable as possible. And have the options. Know the financial implications of today's world on younger people. Know that there's a whole lot of underserved people out there that are not considered by our traditional banking institutions, except to get that forever revolving debt. Cater to them in a way that is more respectful to what they can and want to do with their money. So I would figure that out, and then be as simplified as possible, and use your data, just like everything Elizabeth said. Use your data to make it right for them.
To be relevant.
And sometimes relevance doesn't mean the thing that you go home and talk about. Sometimes it just means simple and easy and.
I love the fact, like, forget about it. I love that. I'm like, wait, you're right. I forgot that I even bought that, which is not actually good, but.
There you go. We've got 30 seconds left, or maybe a minute or two if I squeeze it here. Last question, what's next? If we're sitting here in a couple years, are we going to think about something and the box is going to show up at our front door? What's next?
God,
That'll be scary.
I hope not.
I know.
It'll be too many trumpets at my house.
We've turned that off by now, yes.
Yeah.
But what's next, right? More pay, like, again, this world is about more. I hope it's not more options, and then we go back to a world of craziness where the checkout experience is not what we assumed it to be. But what's next? What's exciting that you guys are talking about?
It's actually, Mani said it earlier, it's distributed commerce. It's commerce wherever you are coming to you. So if I'm actually watching my favorite band, how do I, in that exact same moment, buy the ticket to the performance I didn't even know they were having in 6 weeks where I live. So it's that connectedness of the data across any platform in any moment that actually does still it's not there to creep you out, it's there to surprise and delight the connectiveness of it. So that relevance on another level of brilliance, I think.
I'll agree. I know we're at time, and I totally agree. I totally agree with that. I think that the commerce experience is going to be as easy everywhere as we used to search on Google.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Marnie and Elizabeth and the crew
Thank you,
here.
Mark.
Thank you to Afterpay.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.